Okay, organic video. Let's get started. Basically, it's gonna be a kind of a. I'm gonna try it out. I like trying out different things, and this is gonna be like a series of answering, or rather, taking your ideas and making videos out of it. It just kind of happened organically, quite natural. I kind of accidentally asked in my last video, the channel update video, what you guys want to watch, and by God, did I get a lot of comments. And basically, I've taken note of every single comment, and at some point in the future, I'm going to make a video on it. We have about 20 ideas. That's already pretty good going for such a video as well. So, oh, by the way, and if you haven't actually got to put your idea in that video, you can also put it in this video down in the comments below. If you have any ideas on what you want to be watching, I'll do my best to make a video on it. Now, Conman, I'm going to get to your video idea now first. Because it's doable for me at the moment, and it's actually in line of what we're actually doing here on the farm right now. Now, you were saying maybe do a video on crops that don't grow in India, like your sunflowers, pumpkins, and other cool weather crops. I personally am interested on how they are doing. Now, that's a fantastic idea. Incidentally, we're doing actually some stuff on Echinacea at the moment. I'll run you through that now in a minute. I also have some old footage on my sunflowers, and I'm going to insert those into this video at a little bit of a later stage. Now, don't laugh, because I was very hairy back then. This is last year, and I had a bit of a trim. So we'll get to that now in a minute. Now, first thing I want to talk about is to kind of make this video a little bit more interesting as well, just to add a little bit more stuff. My ideas on how to actually acclimatize crops into a different country. Now, first thing I want to say, forewarn everybody, taking a species or a plant or anything like that into another country can possibly have a risk of, the ecosystem being not as strong as that plant, and it just taking over and spreading like wildfire and being really dangerous. Now, that's something like, for instance, Japanese knotweed is a big problem in Europe, and there's probably like hundreds of plants like that. But I do think it's rather rare, and I do think caution, you gotta be cautious. And if you see something like all of a sudden it just grows like crazy, way better than any of your crops here, then just burn it. Don't go further with it, okay? Because it could become a serious pest. But other than that, I mean, most vegetable species, even here in India, for instance, were brought by the Portuguese, by the English, by probably the Dutch, by every single nation that basically was into building empires at the time. Now, there's 3 types of plants that I have noticed that, I can kind of separate them into 3 different, let's say, categories. One is whereby they grow so poorly that you're never going to be able to get them to acclimatize. What happens is they barely even make a seed, and if they do, that just germinates and nothing happens. So I found with the Maxima crop, one of the pumpkins that I was trying to acclimatize here, which was the giant pumpkin, which is Maxima variety, or species rather, and it just didn't take it. Even though it's a very big pumpkin, like, people have grown it here and have acclimatized it. People in Oroville, for instance, have done that. Took them like 30 years, and they end up with a tiny pumpkin. Is it really worth it? So there's that kind of thing. You also have then those that are kind of intermediate, which they'll kind of grow, but usually the vegetable is like half the size of what it would have been even after 30-40 years. So I've talked to one guy intensely from Oroville about this, and he reckons they've tried for 30 years and nothing much has come of it. Same with if you see all the crops that you're seeing here now today, most of them would actually fit into the last category, which is you planted 1 or 2 generations and it's close enough to the size of what we're used to in the West, or as good as. And it only takes a few generations, and those are the kind of crops that you try to acclimatize. Echinacea is looking like to be one of those crops. The sunflowers were as well. But we'll get into that in a minute. Now I want to share with you a story. Like I went to when I went to Nurelia in Sri Lanka, and also Munnar just recently. I went there just for a little wee holiday, just a very small one. And basically I found in both places elderflower growing in the mountains where the climate is nice and cool. Right at the top of the mountains there was elderflower growing, and other species as well, like dockroot and just European kind of plants that should not really grow in, you know, near the equator. But because it's a mountain region climate and we're high enough up there, the guys there are high enough up, it's actually growing there, which is, I'm thinking, is really amazing. Now that means that the British obviously found elderflower to be, I mean, it's very, like, it's like it grows white T cells, I believe. It's great against so lots of vitamin C. It's great against colds and flus. Brings up your fever if you need more of a fever. Brings down your fever if you have too much of a fever. So it's a really great medicinal herb. And I think because it was a British colony, I think the Brits brought it over back in those days, like 150 years ago or so. And it's interesting, the berries are really small. They're about, I don't know, half the size of what you would normally expect in the West. So that's really interesting. I thought it was interesting anyway, so I thought I'd share that with you. Now I did get some seeds, so you know, I'm gonna try and acclimatize it now. From it being acclimatized, it's crazy. It's probably never gonna work. Like a lot of my ideas don't work, but I like to try, because you never know, that one idea will work, and then it's like, it's great when that happens. Now, so what else is there? Yeah, let's just take a quick look at the sunflowers, how they were doing. It's a great crop. It's acclimatizing really well. I'm also going to grow it out. We're planning about 400 or 500 plants now. We've a bag of seeds from what you're about to see the last time we actually grew it. So let's just take a look. Okay, so you'll notice that I've marked now the sunflowers that I'm going to select for the actual breeding. I have about 40, just over 40 marked, using these round things or closed pegs. And most of them, nearly, actually there's not one that has actually begun to flower yet that I've marked. So they're all the big ones, and they're also late flowering, is exactly what we want as well. Right, that's what the sunflowers look like a few weeks later, and you'll notice that there are two different types. They're very similar in a way, but at the same time it's good to have a bit of genetic diversity. I have cut off quite a number of the heads already. The reason being is because the bees are starting to just a little bit take notice, and I want the biggest, strongest, and also the ones with the thickest stem as well, to be in my next population. Just look at that sunflower. I mean, that is amazing. Now, so that was basically the sunflowers. Now the one crop that I tried as well was sweet corn, and sweet corn was first of all, you need a very large population to be able to grow sweet corn. So literally you need about 1,000 plants. You can get away with about 100, but you need about 1,000 plants in order to have enough genetic diversity. So I tried to grow it here. I brought some sweet corn over from this lady. She gave it to me in Madeira. It's you know, a little small island of Africa, and it was like wonderful sweet corn. I would have loved to have, I don't know, tried to acclimatize it here. It was about 60% of the size of what it should be. So I was growing it for like 4 or 5 generations, but I learned my lesson. Basically what happened was the sweet corn itself was, oh, by the way, there's at the moment there's like a 10-day festival, so you'll hear background chanting and stuff. I hope it doesn't distract. We're used to it, you know. So the sweet corn, anyway, it just did not, it got rust in the end. I didn't have enough population. I was a complete failure. But I learned my lesson, because you need about, depending on what kind of vegetable you're growing, different vegetables need different amounts of population in order to have the diversity. Now, sweet corn is one of the biggest, the one up there which needs the largest amount of diversity, and that means that not only do I need the diversity, but I also have to down select for those plants that can acclimatize. So I might looking at 10,000 plants. So it was not realistic to do the sweet corn. Now the echinacea is a different matter altogether. You don't need many plants to get the seeds. This is what we're doing, and we're actually saving a lot of time and effort. Let me just show you what we're doing. Now, first thing I want to tell you is those trays in there are all echinacea, okay? Not the bags, but the trays. In these bags we have echinacea, and also in that little container. Now, this container of echinacea is the furthest along. I don't know if you can see those. And they're doing amazingly. Now, why are they doing so amazingly? I tell you now in a second. As you can see here, we have just a beautiful echinacea plant. The reason being is because first of all, this is Echinacea augustifolia. Echinacea is a wonderful plant. It also grows white T cells, really good for colds and flus. It actually is known to cure even like snake bite, and especially if you have blood poisoning. You know, when it goes up your vein, people actually in America have used Echinacea to cure themselves from those ailments. So obviously we want it here, and it's a beautiful flower as well, and I like to also include flowers into my plantings. So what we've done is, we may have planted up some, maybe, I don't know, what was it again? Each time around 10 trays of Echinacea, 3 seeds per pot, a little unit, module. And then what we've done is we've selected from those trays, which are these ones. So we've selected then all the ones, maybe about 10%, all the ones that basically were strong enough, sorry for going back and forth, were strong enough that we could say, yeah, they're going to be the best 10%, they're going to make it here, they're most acclimatized. The reason I did it like that is because I didn't want to waste all this energy planting stuff out, but actually down select until we find the strongest ones. This was the first planting, this was the second. In the pots over there, those pots there, you see them? Hang on, my hand, it's hard to, there, those ones, they are the third and final one, and we have, well, it'll be the fourth and final one is still to come. Sorry, it's very distracting for me to talk and try to think about what to say. I don't mind the music at all. I mean, it's, you know, everybody each to their own, do whatever you want to do. But in this case, it's bad timing. Anyway, I wonder what he's saying. Anyway, now, so that concludes the video. Echinacea is going to be one of those plants which we're going to acclimatize. As you can see, this and this, there's a huge difference, okay? So we're obviously only going to plant this one and discard this one. So that's kind of what we're looking for, to acclimatize a new variety. Then we'll get the seeds. Hopefully we'll get to the seed stage. Once we've done that, we can resow it. If they germinate and grow into beautiful plants, we know we are onto a winner. And by selecting all the ones that are doing really well, the 10%, we know that we can actually start a new population. We also, even in just this, we probably have enough to start a new population. Many herbs are like perennials. They don't really need a large amount of plants to a population to have enough diversity in their genetic diversity. So last but not least, there's of course where you take a cutting and you just stick it in the ground. There's the seed stage. It's probably the hardest thing to pull off. Unfortunately, Echinacea and many of the vegetables that I was trying to acclimatize, you have to do it by seed. The sweet corn, I mean, I had like generation 4 or 5, so that worked. So you can actually acclimatize stuff, and it's only natural that you could, because of course, most countries, most of the crops actually came from other countries, especially Europe and stuff. We imported all those, like from potatoes to everything. I think the only indigenous plant pretty much is black currants in Europe. Even apple and stuff, it all came from like the Middle East and Africa and America, and so just bear that in mind as well. Yeah, so I gotta finish the video. Thank you, Conman, for asking the question. Sorry guys if this was a bit distracting. I got a little bit distracted here. But I'm just going to throw it up as is. If you have any ideas on videos for me to make in the future, yeah, just drop them down in the comment section down below. Like up the video. I'm not getting any likes. Apparently nobody's liking me videos. I wonder why. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.